This has been genuinely one of the hardest things I've done as an adult. Hello and welcome to the Infinite Inkwell, or welcome back to the Infinite Inkwell. I'm Lewis and I'm on a journey to discover different ways to tell stories. At the moment, I'm trying to do that through a video game. So I want to actually start off by addressing something that's been huge for me the past week. The channel has weirdly exploded on the back of that last video that I posted. So you'll be able to have a link up here for that. On average, my videos hit about 300 for the last couple, but the last one has now hit over 3,000 views, and I cannot thank you enough for watching. It's been great seeing so many people active down in the comments. I know there's a bunch of questions, try to reply to as many as I can during the week, but for any I missed, I do apologize. With my last video, I also picked up a whole bunch of subscribers, so welcome on the journey. Glad to have you here. Excited to see where this is going to go. So welcome, very happy to have you here. Anyway, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to get on with the rest of the video. So in my last video, I spent some time just trying to get to know Godot. How does it work? How does GDScript work and how can I use it? I spoke mostly about my learning experience in those first 8 hours. In those first 8 hours, I got relatively far, but that's kind of where my luck ended. And from there, I've probably spent another maybe 15 to 20 hours learning and trying to build something, and it's been awful. It has been such a struggle to do a lot of this stuff. I didn't think it would be off the back of the learning. The learning seemed really straightforward. I was getting there. I was starting to put stuff together. That was where a lot of my success ended. And it was really deeply upsetting. What actually happened? I started again. I put my learnings to a side and started to build it up again just to practice effectively. Can I rebuild the thing that I'd already built? Just using my notes, and if I absolutely had to, going back to some of the video content. So I got quite far building that out. Then I couldn't understand why, but collisions just stopped working. So I spent a lot of time trying to look online for if anybody else had picked this up. I started playing around with some of the settings, making some changes and going, oh, that looks a bit weird. Maybe I'll just change it. I even went back to a lot of the videos and started to go, what were the settings? What was in the inspector on the right hand side? Going through it in detail, going, does this match? Does this match? Does this match? After a while, I just went, I don't understand what I've done. I have no idea what went wrong. So I had to abandon it. And that killed me, having to abandon it. Every time I thought I got just that little bit further, I'd go, oh, right, it's here. It's ready. I'm going to go learn something. I would then learn that extra next piece, right? So I learned more about collectibles, how I can interact with those objects in the world. Then I went on to some other learning about how levels change. That stuff was really useful. And I'd made notes on it. I was quite happy with what I'd done. And then I went back to my game and started to continue to develop. And it didn't take long for things to break down again. So only this time, the player controls stopped working. And I couldn't work out why. All I'd done was add an interaction option. I said, what's wrong? Why has this happened again? And I spent more time going through and checking what was in my script. What had I written? Was the code that I'd written actually accurate? Was there anything in the debugger that was coming up? In fact, the debugger's been helpful a couple of times during a playthrough to test certain pieces. Is that, oh, okay, that isn't firing, not a problem. Or this isn't happening at all. Or it's telling me there's this error message. Fine. But again, I hit the same barriers and found myself stuck to the extent where I had to abandon again. So I've now abandoned 2, right? Just 2. So then I thought, great, okay, well, now I'm going to ignore the interaction. That was kind of a stretch. Let's just see if I can get collectibles to appear in the world and then for me to be able to pick them up. So the character walks into it and it just registers it down in the console. I just wanted to do it like a +1. Fine, nice and simple. So I rebuilt everything again. Now, the one thing that I will say I found from all this, I am now very, very well versed in how to build a tile set, build a player animation, build an animation around a sprite. It's not a problem. I can do that quite comfortably without notes, completely confident that what I'm going to do is fine and works. So I guess there's that. Either way, I know how to do them now. I am great at them. I've been trying to get faster. which has happened because that was only the 2 times I had to abandon it. There were another 2 or 3. So my tile map broke and I don't know why. There was another time when I'd been going through it and it turns out I put the tile size in wrong. So I was meant to change it to 40 by 40 because of the artwork that I was using, and I didn't, and everything kind of broke and looked weird. So it went from being, oh, look, perfect, immaculate, to we're not going to work because you said this was meant to be 16 by 16, but this artwork is a different size. It had a mental breakdown. It was awful. And I thought, oh, this must be quite easy to fix. No, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I tried multiple times. And at that point, I'd failed twice in a day. I just had to stop and just walk away. It was too much. And then I came back. This time when I came back, I sat down for about 5 hours solidly, going back over most of the learning again, going over all of my notes, making sure that I had some of the extra new pieces that I wanted and that I was very clear on how they were going to work and how I could put them into my game. Even things like basic borders, so for collision zones around a whole map. How do I look at that? Learning it, making sure I knew what I was doing as I was writing it, so that when I went back for another attempt, I knew what I was doing. And I thought, this one, I've got it with this one. It's gonna be the one. And luckily I was right, so today I actually have some stuff to show you. Oh, it's been soul destroying. I have not used this much profanity in such a short period of time for so long. It's been truly challenging, and I've wanted to just abandon ship multiple times. I realized that some of the logic in how Godot has been, it's just a little bit unusual for me, but I'm starting to get it, and most of that is through failing, try again, failing, try again, failing, try again. Particularly one of the, in fact, I'm going to call this out now. This was a big learning for me and something that was really difficult for someone who is not au fait with how technology actually works in the background. So how it pulls through code and how it displays stuff. I do not get it. And the thing that really threw me is that everything for movement and positioning is based on an axis, right? So you have your X and your Y axis. So your X horizontally, your Y vertically. Now, as a person who did lots of maths growing up and has done so since, so having to create graphs for presentations or like just analyzing data, I've drawn a lot of charts, right? I know what they are. I know what an X is, goes along the bottom, Y goes up. Well, Godot doesn't do that, and that's been a big problem for me. So where Godot works slightly differently, Godot from 0, 0, if you go right, it's a positive. Fine, makes complete sense. I get that. From 0, 0, if you go left, goes negative. Makes perfect sense. Then, from 0, 0, if you go along the y-axis, so if you go up, that's a negative value. And if you go down, it's a positive value. I'm still struggling with this. I'm a lot better now. I'm more comfortable with it. I've done some reading. Apparently, there are some other programs that in the past have done it this way. A lot of graphic design stuff does it like this. Apparently, the old logic for like TV displays and stuff used to start this way. It's kind of weird, but I kind of get it now. That was a huge learning for Godot, and it's so counterintuitive to what you would see elsewhere in the real world. So right, let's get down to business. Let me show you what I've done. Here we go. Here is my, as you can say, it was optimistically named the final learning attempt. This is my world 1. It is a little bit of a mess, and I had to cut some corners around certain things that didn't quite work for me. But I feel like that's relatively normal. If something doesn't work, you find a workaround, which was great. So in my little world, I have all of, I've done a very good job down there. But anyway, I have my character. I have a world with stuff in it. You'll notice these little blue blotches. These are actually the capture zones for apples that exist in there. They're all dotted around. And in the bottom right hand corner, I actually used the Godot symbol because I didn't have any other artwork to use as my kind of level portal, for lack of a better phrase. So you can go around the level, you collect your apples, and then you come to the end and you use that. One of the things that is a bit weird is that there is water going all the way around this level, and I will explain that in a bit. So let's go over to my player script. So in here, we've got a few things. So just some of the basics, some directional pieces, and actually some input for the action button, which I finally got working to a degree. So it recognizes it, but the animation, I couldn't get quite to work with it just yet. But this is just for me to test out how I could build in here. So this is a good point to just mention. I'm probably not going to push it much further with this one. One of the first bits I did was actually create a group for player 1. This was something that I found in a couple of other tutorials. So I've also got all my animations down here, which work quite nicely. So quite happy with that. We have my player animations. My player animations I'm really happy with, as I said. So I have, in fact, let me see if we can find our little player here. So there we go. By default, he's just sitting there quite idle. I thought he looked quite ridiculous being this fast. But then we have our moving down, left, right, left, right, up, up, left, up, right, and the interaction. Yeah, that one was slowed down, but originally it was meant to look like this. So it looks like he's doing something. I cobbled that out of other sprite objects that were not meant for this purpose, but I thought it kind of got away with that anyway. So now we have our collectible. So collectible has a nice little animation on it, which plays by default, which is just that. Just as this goes round and round. Looks slightly more interesting than being static. It does have audio in. The audio has been a little bit temperamental, but this was actually more for a collect animation. So let me show you in the collect animation. If I hit play, so you can see it slowly just comes up and disappears. So almost as if the character is picking it up. That sound is actually me. I recorded that. I think that's probably how, as I'm experimenting right now with different engines, it's just going to be that. I'm probably not going to go down too far into the audio design until much later, and I've actually finalized what game I'm making and even have a lot of that already pre-built, and then I can just add the audio in. Just so I knew where I was going, the portal goes to World 2, and World 2 is this. Very basic, but just wanted to make it very, very distinct from the other one without putting in too much effort. And then we have our end level. So this just being the little Godot icon. In here, there's actually a script which has a couple of signals sent to it to recognize when the player body's in there. Then when it is and they have an action, it actually goes to get the next level or the previous level. So you can travel in between. And that's that. Nice and simple. I didn't want to go too crazy, so let me show you what that looks like now. Here we go. Here is our little level. You can see that the apples are spinning. Go around. This, oh look, a river that I can't walk into. That's fantastic. I can't walk over it. A cliff edge that I'm stuck on. A tree that I can hide behind, and I can walk around. I can't walk around that side. It's not enough open space for it. But this is fantastic. This is, I tell you, I'm very happy that I've managed to get this far and have these objects that I can't do anything with. I can't, there are actual borders in here where I'm stuck by something. So I can go and do all these things. So while I go over to the portal, let me tell you about why I've got the rivers around the outside. So one of the things that I found was really clever and really useful is that when I hit a barrier for one reason or another, I found workarounds. So one of the workarounds was that I couldn't get the polygon collision 2D to work. So what I did was I used a technique that I found within the tile map. Now let me talk to you a bit about the tile map. So when I was looking at the tile maps, you can actually set up individual collision areas for different tiles. So that's how I managed to get all of the map elements to have barriers. Because the polygon collision 2D wouldn't work, so being able to draw a map around it, I used the tile map instead and found that this was far more consistent and actually enabled me to do these things without having too much in the way of issues. So the river around the outside is because I couldn't get the map to work. So not the map, the polygon map to work. But this way, it works still. I'll be honest, if I were to do this as a proper level, I would clean it up. It would be something very neutral that wasn't going to distract from the rest of the level. This allowed me to do it in the short term, and that's kind of cool. Now, if I switch back to the level right now, so you can see in the level, you've got the barrier on the right-hand side. So if I, over here, this is part of the river thing. So it's just part of that, but we're now at a point where we can come down. We have our little portal. The portal doesn't do anything until I hit the action button. And welcome to World 2. Something that I put in here for my own entertainment is a portal back to the previous level. So that still works. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. It's taken a minute to get here. I say more than a minute, probably multiple hours, if not now about a day, from actually starting to learn originally for my last video through this. So it's been a while, but I've achieved something. I've made a step forward. A reasonable step forward. Even though it was a lot of effort and a lot of pain and struggle and failure, I did it. I've done something. I now have a basis of basic understanding of Godot and what I could be doing in this. The things that I found about Godot while I've been doing this, it can be a little finicky. I've actually found the debugging really good. Some of the stuff that is actually surprisingly intuitive. So when I started to try and add sound, I found that it was actually relatively easy to find the stuff that I wanted and then add it myself without having to go and watch a tutorial or read the documentation. There was some stuff that just kind of made sense based on the learnings that I'd already had. So I'll actually give it some credit there. It's quite nice and quite, I'd be very hard pushed to say simple, but the way that it approaches this is actually really good. I'd be quite comfortable if I were to build in Godot with GDScript. I think it would be hard, but I think any language from scratch is going to be hard. I think that I would probably have to do a bit more of a traditional course if I were to pick up any of these now based on them. But I haven't had to do computer science to build a level. I haven't had to pick up computer science to build a level, which the documentation that Godot and even GD Quest say you have to do first. It can be done. You don't need to have a computer science degree to build a video game. If I was to reflect on the last couple of weeks of going through Godot and trying to learn and build and create something, yes, it's a test level that I'm going to throw away, but I've created something. Would I do it again? Yes. Would I change how I do it again? Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think I would. I think I would make a list of the things that I wanted, even in a test level. And I kind of already roughly knew them, but I wasn't structured enough to go, I need to know how to build a map. I need to know how to make sure that there's limitations on the map. I need to know how to introduce a camera, how to build a player, how to animate a player. I would create a list of basic functionality that I need to know to build this stuff. And I would start there, and then I would pick those things apart and go and learn about them. And I would probably watch a video or read the documentation 3, 4, 5 times over just to make sure that I knew what I was doing. One thing that I started doing actually while I was doing some of this, particularly on the level changing piece, was find a couple of videos, watch them through on their own initially, then compare them, see which ones that you think is going to work or the one that looks the easiest for you to follow. Watch it again, but this time pausing for notes, and then watching it again just to make sure that you've got everything there and that you've not missed anything in your notes, you've not kind of accidentally overlooked anything. But I would definitely go with that as an approach again if I were to do it, just because I think it's going to make it easier to know if you've missed something, as opposed to go through your notes and go, oh, why doesn't this work? Why is this missing? And only to go back to the video and to realize that you missed something blindingly obvious. Godot and GDScript, I quite like it. It will probably end up being a very strong contender going into the rest of the evaluation. So what's next? C++. Yeah, I'm going to talk about C++. A lot of the comments and questions and such that I've had on the last few videos have effectively told me I was a madman for looking at C++, and I don't think they are wrong. I think it might be a foolish endeavor. I'm going to have a look at a couple of videos and go from there. If some of the things that come up in the videos are insanely daunting or require significantly more work than I'm comfortable with, I might err away from it. I think if the next video isn't on my first few hours learning C++ in Godot, it will be on why I abandoned Godot and C++ as a combination. I really do. It's quite a big thing to be looking at. So I'm really uncertain about that one. That was my experience building my first level with Godot using GDScript. Hopefully you found it useful, entertaining. It's okay, you're more than welcome to laugh at my pain and my struggle. So hopefully you found it useful. If you did enjoy this video, hitting that like button would be incredibly nice of you. If you really like this video and want to see what's next and kind of come on this journey of exploring different ways to tell stories and building a video game, which is where I'm starting, then do hit the subscribe button. It'd be great to have you on the journey with us. Also, if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, stick them down in the comment section. I'm really enjoying engaging with you guys down there. Happy to answer any questions that you have. All of the resources and stuff that I've been using, I'm going to stick down in the description for anybody who's interested or wants to go through some of those things, or maybe you're on your own journey of learning how to make video games. Any of the stuff that I find that I think is useful, I will stick in there as well. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.